Dala, Dala, Dala. Welcome back to my channel. So now that we've had already established that African spirituality or culture can express itself through a variety of languages beyond the native language, meaning that spirituality can transcend languages because, after all, a language is only a tool to express your whatever you want to express your culture, your spirituality, or what have you. It's just a tool. It is not something that is necessarily fixed or static. Language evolves with time, as you see with all of the slangs. For example, each new generation of youngsters will have their own little lingo, will have their own little terms. In English, you can see in the United States, for example, dab, lit, all those different things are words and terms that come from one generation to another. There's always new terms. So language is not something that's static, it's something that evolves with time. So it's only natural to see that as different cultures are being mixed together or are being given or learning different languages, that they are able to express different things in those different languages. So I wanted to talk to you about the notion of children with four eyes. And if you read literally in the English language, if you read literally, it's gonna say children with four eyes. So you're gonna be sort of thinking this is a child that's born with four physical eyes. But that would be just a literal meaning of the words. But here, because it's a spiritual term that is translated in the English language, and this is just a translation from the French language, from the Dominican tradition, we'll say a child born, un enfant à quatre yeux, so a child with four eyes. And we literally translate that, you understand the English word, but you do not know the meaning of it. And if you want to guess the meaning of it, you can pause, put me down in the comment what you think this means before I tell you what it is. So, children with four eyes, because it reflects to you have your two physical eyes that everybody has in the physical world, the eyes that you used to see, and then you have another pair of two eyes, and those relates to children who are able to see beyond the material and to see the spiritual realm. And those children, whether they are in the womb when it's known, or whether it's known when they're born, have the ability of seeing beyond the material. And I've kind of alluded to some of those things, notably when you have a baby that's looking at different people, and the baby may all of a sudden start screaming for no reason that you think of, but there may be something in the room, there may be something that the baby is seeing that you cannot see yourself. And the many ways that people start knowing about this is that sometimes it's through divination. When the child is not fussy, and the child has already 18, you changed him, so there's no physical need that needs to be expressed. It's not in a situation or an environment of distress, and started screaming all of a sudden. That's what prompts the parents to start asking questions. And specifically if the child is looking at a particular direction when they're screaming or yelling or looking like they're distressed or scared or what have you, and you can see that they're looking at the corner. You look at the corner, you don't see anything, but the child is seeing something. And so when parents started noticing this, and sometimes it can happen at the same time, same hour, or in a particular location, when you bring the child to a specific room, the child starts screaming or start having these issues, or he's sleeping and wakes up and starts screaming. And I'm not talking about when a child normally wakes up and is thirsty or needs food and start crying so that he has a need that needs to be met. Speaking about a child screaming all of a sudden. So you'll notice, first of all, that the crying is different. It's not the same crying as when he's hungry or needs to be changed or anything like that, or needs some more attention or caring. So you notice that difference, and you can notice also that it may happen in a specific room. It may also happen when a specific person is around. The child is fuzzy. The child doesn't so always cry when this person is holding them. You can have a perfectly quiet baby, and then this person wants to hold them, and baby just starts crying. So it's something that you have to observe with time, over time. It's not just because that person cried one time, it's kind of like the baby may have just peed and needs to be changed, and it happens that you were passing him to be held by this person. In order for you to confirm that, you have to see it in real time that the baby has an aversion to this person or to this place or to this situation or this context or a specific conversation. Every time you're having that conversation, the baby reacts a certain way. So those are kind of clues that push parents to either go back to the grandparents and start discussing this, telling them about that. Because in the tradition, your grandparents have seen a lot more than you. And if this phenomenon already happened within your family, they may be the first resources for you to be aware of that, because it may be something that's related to your own family that has nothing to do with somebody from external. It may be something related to your place, your village, or who knows, but your grandparents may have that information already. And if you're lucky, your great grandparents. Okay? If they're not around, of course, ask your parents. If their parents have never don't know what you're talking about, or they don't, then the next thing is to go to a medium. So the medium can be another access for you to have a different perspective, or to bring you some of the answers to so that you can assess what's going on. And I say a medium because through divination in traditional African culture, it's one way you can have more information. Okay. Now, if you don't want to go to a medium, or you are also, because I know some of you are Muslim, Christians, and whatever else, you dabbing in other religions, and you're also trying to understand African culture, then go to your spiritual leader, go to your priest, to your imam, or to whoever, and say that you are thinking that there's something going on with your baby, and see what they tell you, what resources they have available to them, because it's well known that some of those religious leaders have also information about spiritual or energetical things that are going on, even though they're not teaching that within the synagogue, or teaching that within the church, or whatever you. Some of them may have that information already, and we probably the prime example is a Catholic Church, that their branch for exorcism, all different things, is well known. But it's not exclusive to the Catholic Church. There are a lot of other denomination and Christian denomination that have the same type of thing, and that do the same type of thing. Exorcism is not just something of the Catholic Church. But I digress. So basically, if you're not comfortable with that, or if you don't have a medium next to you or near you, thank God we have things now. You can go online and find somebody, or ask somebody to refer you, which would be the the better step, because that means that person probably referring you to somebody they trust, or go to your spiritual leader. And if you don't have any of those available to you, I'll say you use your own dreams. Ask yourself that question: what is happening with my baby before you go to sleep? Ask to be shown what is happening with your baby, and whatever you get in the morning or the next few days, write your dreams. Of course, if you have issues with your dreams, I've made also a couple of videos where you can make sure that there's nothing physically about you that prevents you from remembering your dreams, accessing the information, or to see if there's no other interferences with it. So there's already a video on that. But the gist of this particular video is that those children who have four eyes are able to see beyond. And of course, when they are little, when they are newborn, to the point where they get toddler, they cannot express that to you. They cannot tell you unless you have a baby whisperer, who are people who are able to communicate with babies. So the baby, they will just sense, or have an inner knowing when they're near the baby and they're asking the baby question. They will just know. And those people are becoming rarer and rarer as people turn away from the tradition and the culture. But if you do have that such person around you, it may be a good thing to consult with them or to ask them about it. Now, if you don't have all of that, you yourself has to become an investigator. Meaning, if the baby is, if something you yourself, the mom, or the dad or the couple together have to become investigators. So if this is happening when the baby is brought to a specific room in your house, your apartment, or where you live, then start researching what happened in your apartment. That would be the first place to start. Was there a murder in this place? Was there what happened? What happened to the last tenants? Why did they leave? So there may be something about the energy of the place itself. And if you notice that this is happening to the baby, stop bringing the baby there. It's kind of like you start having those warning. You kind of understand that this spot or this room, the baby doesn't like to be in there. Why would you bring the baby? Continue to bring the baby there. It's like asking for trouble. So keep your baby safe by putting the baby somewhere else. And if you can, move and go live somewhere else. And I think it's easier said than done, because if you see that your baby is very sensitive to that point, then that means when you're house hunting for a new place, you need to bring the baby to make sure that this is not happening everywhere else, or that this is not following you. But the whole point of this video is just to say that you may have a fuzzy baby or a fuzzy toddler that is not fuzzy based on their personality, but based on what they feel and see and are able to perceive. And this is not something that should scare you, because I know like some adults that went through that when they were a child, because they were seeing a lot of things. They were sometimes persecuted, they were, mistreated and what have you. And there's no reason for that. It's just for you as a parent to be astute to make sure that if your child is different or is more sensitive, that you are aware of that and that you take the precautions and that you act accordingly. And it's not because you have one child out of 4 eyes that all of your children are like that. That's why you really have to pay attention to who this child is as a unique individual, as a unique being. And it requires you to spend time with them in order for you to know. So it's going to be very hard for you to know that this child is a child with 4 eyes. That means it's a child that can see, that's both in the material and the physical at the same time, and is aware of everything, if you don't spend time with the baby. So if you go and put your baby in daycare, for example, at the daycare they may not be aware, and you may not have enough time with your baby to even know. So you may discover this when the child is already a toddler, or when the child starts speaking. Because when he starts speaking, the child may tell you, oh, this such and such, oh, I saw grandpa yesterday, or I saw this in the corner, or I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. And for you, it's not just to take what the child is saying and run with it, but you can start taking notes. What is the child telling you? And you can start asking the child and having the same rules that you have with your child about speaking to strangers and things like that. You can have them with them in terms of what they're seeing spiritually. So it's not for you to feed what they'll tell you. It's for you to listen to the child, what they have to say. Make sure there's no concern that if they're scared, what they're scared about. If it's a person, who it is. Do you know who it is? If this person is scaring your child, tell your child to tell them to go away. And then see if this person actually goes away or not, or how your child responds. It's basically up to you to really walk and accompany your child through all of that, without you trying to impose your personal point of view, etc. If your child is scared, you have to accept that the child is scared. There's things that then he or her may not want to do because they are scared. So it's going to be maybe walking them through overcoming that fear, or taking them away so they're no longer fearful and they can think more clearly, or express themselves more clearly. And there may be, because of that, things that you need to do. I mentioned before that you may have to move to a different place. It could even be a different town, and maybe if you find another job, a different city, a different country or continent, what have you. But you have to be willing to do what's necessary for your child, to do what's necessary to accompany and accommodate and help your child, basically. And that's why sometimes when you do have these children, this type of children, your job cannot be a priority, your career cannot be a priority. Your priority has to become what this child needs for their own well-being. And I know it's a lot to sink in for a lot of you, because a lot of time you're being told that your career is as important as your children, which is not true, and especially in this type of cases where the child actually needs someone to be guiding them, and if your grandmother doesn't have that, and sometimes this is one of the other things, is that it's possible that someone else in your family has that type of experience already, which would be easier for you because you can turn to them and they can be a support, a resource for you. But if this is the first time you don't have this as a history in your family, and you don't have someone else in your community that's going through that, because that could be another thing, that is something in your neighborhood or your community that a person that's just like your child, towards whom you can turn to for help and assistance, and someone that you trust, sorry. Because always remember that no matter what other people are telling you, it is your child. You're the one who is responsible for their well-being and their safety. So you always have to be involved, no matter what other people are willing to do, or are willing to help you. This is why for you it becomes a priority that is above your job, that is above some certain other personal priority or dreams that you may have. And luckily enough, as with all of the children that we have, with 4 eyes or not, the goal or the job is always the same. Looking after their safety, their well-being, assisting them in who they're supposed to become and what they need to accomplish. And once they're able to fly with their own wing, we can be a little bit more in the background and take the back burner. And this takes precedent over whatever other dreams that we may think we had, that we may think is more important. Because at the moment you have a child, that child becomes very, very important in who you're supposed to be in your purpose. So part of your purpose is entangled with this child. So I hope this was useful. Of course, if you have questions, leave them below. Questions, comments, or even suggestions or thoughts about this topic, leave them below. Especially, I'm curious to know this notion that I've underlined about your child becoming more important than your career. If you have any thought about that, please do share them. I'll be very interested to hear what you have to say about that. And thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.